Hi, and welcome everybody to another podcast on the Thriving LDS Singles. We're so happy to have you here. I'm Kay and my co-host Kim. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about an interesting topic, well, I think it's interesting, called decluttering. So what do you think it means to declutter, Kim?
Well, for sure, it means just organizing and getting things straight, getting rid of things, and cleaning things up. But I think when you go through a big change, whether it's being a widow or being divorced or having to restart your life a little bit over again, decluttering has a much broader definition in context of those things. What do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think everybody needs to be continually decluttering because we're in a society that it's so easy to get more things. And we were talking just before about money and how like money will be one of our topics coming up. But one of the things we like doing is spending, because spending means we gather things. And
yeah, I guess you could apply decluttering to money. Would that mean I have to go through and figure out how many subscription services I actually have and clean those out?
Exactly, that's right. Decluttering is not just your clothes wardrobe, it's
Yeah.
everything. So have you got 1,000 emails waiting to be read?
Yes.
Whoops.
They'll never get read, but they're out there.
If they're never going to get read, then declutter them.
Yeah. My inbox is a place that would take me a good amount of time to declutter, but that's a really good point.
So when we talk about clutter and we think of, like I'm sure you've got a show on TV called Hoarders or something like that, and you see the people's houses and you're going, whoa, at least mine doesn't look like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we don't have to be at that level to have too much stuff around us.
For sure. And I think it's a really good point, because decluttering your computer, I'm currently getting, you are at 80% storage, and I'm like, oh, gotta go clean all that stuff out. So we have to declutter digitally too. Probably more important, really.
Well, anything that's weighs on you. Mm-hmm. So if you open your computer and you've got your 1,000 emails sitting there is a moment of like, oh, I'm never going to get all this read. And you're absolutely right. You're just not. Yeah. And you're keeping, because, oh, that looks interesting. That looks interesting. Oh, yeah, I should, It's like, you can't. So, declutter that inbox, because every single thing that's too much, whether it's the clothes or whether it's the anything, but digitally as well, it weighs on you. It's heavy.
You're dragging it around. It's baggage, just like any emotional baggage. The more we can clear that stuff out, the freer we become to really live our healthy, happy, thriving lives.
Exactly. So, go through that list, but not so much to read it, but to like, which ones can you unsubscribe from?
Yeah.
And just delete the whole 1,000, anything except the last week, maybe. It's like, just gone, because it's just weighing on you and it's not helping you be healthy and happy.
So true.
And so that one, subscriptions, like people have subscriptions and they, you sign up for that 1 week for $1 or a month for $1, except they then take the $34 next month.
I have,
and you see it, you go, oh, darn. So go through all of those and take them out. They can be taking a couple of $100 out of your account every month.
It's true.
The stuff you're not using.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, declutter all of those.
And we all have an area where we just don't want it. Like, look behind me. My area is books. I cannot stand the thought of getting rid of a book. That is, to me, that's my I don't know. I just am really attached to my books. If they're fiction books, they can go. But if they're, some kind of nonfiction book, I keep them. I told somebody the other day, every single book I have ever used in my education with my master's and my doctorate program, I kept. I didn't get rid of any of them. I didn't resell. I can't resell books back now.
And yet, are you likely to look at them again?
Well, that's the challenge, right? If I do think that's the question, is how much value is here, and am I going to reuse this? And that's probably why I can almost justify my books, because I do go back to them a lot. But yeah, when it comes to many other things, I have a decluttering story for you relative to being single. So when I was going through my divorce, I wanted to declutter. We had this horrendous basement of just piled to the hilt with garbage, like old fax machines that didn't work and CPUs that you couldn't even turn on, or, just out and out actual garbage. And so I was trying to be gracious, and I sent a text to my soon to be ex, and I said, I would like to declutter this, but I don't want to get rid of anything that you care about. So can I take pictures of it, show it to you, and you can tell me that's a go or a no go, or I want to keep that. And not long after, I got a letter from the courts saying that if I tried to throw anything away, that I would be compromising our assets or our property in some way. And so my lawyer said, don't touch anything. I don't care if it's garbage. Do not throw a single thing away. And that was a huge burden for me, because I was trying to restart my life and trying to start fresh and get rid of some of the things that were that were truly just garbage. And so Shauna, who we've interviewed, I was telling her how stressful this was. And even just like walking around the house, because my divorce actually took almost 3 years, the separation. So even just walking around the house, I was afraid, I couldn't get rid of anything because it might be something that I'd get accused of doing something wrong. So I was telling her this story, and the next day she showed up at my house and she said, we're going to make this your house, Kim. And we literally walked through every single room, and she, just like the what's that? There's a
Marie Kondo.
Yeah, Marie Kondo. She would hold it up. She wouldn't say, does this bring you joy? She would say, what do you think of when you do it? Or, and I would say, oh, that was some pottery we bought together. We had this tradition of buying something every year, whatever. And she'd say, okay, bubble wrap that up and put it in a box. It's going downstairs. And so, because I couldn't do the whole house, but I could, I was thinking in my brain, I can't do this because I have to take care of everything. And she was like, no, we're going to make your living space where you feel comfortable, and everything you look at has a positive connotation and a positive memory. So we went through every single thing, every little piece, and bubble wrapped up what, had some kind of past baggage with it, and put it away. And then for weeks, she would call me and say, how's your house today, Kim? How do you feel in your house today? And I'd say, I feel amazing. But it really was the most freeing thing. I don't even think you could even imagine. Like, sometimes I think it would be really hard if my spouse passed away and I was still in that house, and that's like a whole different level. Maybe you can share some of how you manage and navigate that, because I think that would be so much harder than what I even was going through. But what Shauna did for me was a huge blessing. I told her, we really need to just start this as a service for women who are going through divorce, because you get stuck in thinking, oh, I have to keep that, or this, or whatever, or this is for the kids, and which is okay, but it's okay to put the bubble wrap around it and put it in a box and move it out of your living environment so that you can feel happy and joyful again.
Mm.
So I don't know, what was your experience?
So yes, when your spouse dies, it's more complicated, because you're having been through the divorce. I didn't have the problem of like a court order. I just was like, I remember splitting up the furniture and things, and it was I remember telling him he can take the whole bed and bedroom suite, the whole lot. He can take the whole lot, because it was like, you can go, you know.
You and your bed.
You and your bed. And, you know, we had 2 lounge suites. It's like, fine, you have that one. And so, yeah, it was very freeing. It was really nice. But yeah, like he literally came and we divided the house in half. So it was great.
Yeah.
Married, widowhood is different, because obviously, first off, there's not a person leaving. It's like you've got everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it very difficult. I found it, I didn't like the reminders. I didn't even like the photos of us as a couple up. To me, it was sort of like a slap in the face all the time.
Yeah.
Now, that was 5.5 years ago now, and my feelings have changed, and I finally put up some of those pictures.
Oh.
But yeah, at the time, I just wanted it, like, yeah, I found it really difficult to have all that stuff around. Other people, of course, are the other way around. They want to hang on to everything, and they keep their husband's clothes forever. And I was very weird, I guess. I was like, I want his clothes out now.
Yeah.
Even my children were a bit concerned about how fast I wanted things out. So yes, I think in widowhood, it can be very different for the individuals. So some people really like to hang on to stuff and, you know, find it difficult to get rid of anything.
And they don't even want to think about it as decluttering. Like there's just too much emotional sentiment related to those things.
Yes. So in widowhood, I think it really is very different, and it really is up to the individual. And I'm not sure there's a right and a wrong way.
Yeah.
But
and maybe you wouldn't even put that in the camp of decluttering, right? Like, because it's a whole different, it's part of the grieving process, I think.
It's part of the grieving process, but it actually still is decluttering. Because if you're keeping clothes that are never, ever going to be used, or tools, you know, or whatever hobby he had, and they're all just sitting there, they are actually creating a heaviness in your house.
Right.
And, you know, that's what we're talking about here, is this thriving singles. And we actually do need to move on. And that, you know, I certainly wouldn't tell someone that in the first year.
Right. And everybody's process is different. You have to honor that for sure.
You have to honor it. So if you're somebody helping someone at that stage of life, just let them grieve in whatever way they feel appropriate. But if it's been a few years, then, and they're still at that spot, they could be stuck. Right. And maybe we need to talk about that, sort of that getting stuck in grief, which is a very different experience. And I think some of those things, like the clothes in the wardrobe, are probably a symptom of being stuck, as opposed to still grieving. Like, you see the difference? Yeah. But and that whole thing about, it's really probably is good advice. Don't make big decisions in the first year, because your emotions do really go through all sorts of ups and downs.
For sure.
But for me, the decision to sell that house and to move to a different house was a really good decision. And I probably made it about 18 months later. And it was sitting in the house, just surrounded by the memories, and just feeling the weight of all of those memories and that life that I'd lost.
Yeah.
And that's not a healthy spot to be in, because I can't get it back. And although I'd like it back, and that was, you know, I really liked the life we'd planned, that isn't going to happen. And so for me, selling the house was the way to move forward. And I really love my new house because it's my house.
Yeah.
And I've got just what I want. And it was interesting because when I was selling, I knew I was downsizing. So I got rid of 50% of stuff. And then I decided to travel and things for a while. So I needed to put it in storage. So I got rid of another 50%. Yeah. Right. Now, I wouldn't have said a cluttered house, but
it's amazing what you can gather.
Yeah. When I moved here, I've got rid of another 50%. Like it's, and that's my goal for being in this house. So it's a townhouse. So it's probably half the size of my house. But yeah, that's the goal, is to, I've got some shelves in the garage with boxes, and they're allowed to have the storage and nowhere else. That's it. And you do keep mementos from your children's childhood and things. You do realize that mostly your children never want it.
Yeah, just in case. I have
but
boxes of just in case.
If you want to keep some of that stuff, that's great. But I found I'd kept birthday cards from them when they were 5 or something. And then when you ask, and my children are now, most of my children are in their 40s, in houses and stuff, and they go, no, I don't want it.
Yeah.
It's like, I've kept it for 40 years and you don't want it.
Yeah. Would have been.
And I guess that's the other rule I apply to this now. I don't know whether you've had the experience yet, but I've had a mother, a grandmother, and a mother-in-law all die, and I ended up having to clean out their houses. And they had so much stuff.
Yeah.
And so although I'm not at the dying spot, I do look at things I'm keeping and going, what are my children going to do with this?
Yeah, I do that all the time. But think about, just because I'm on the road a lot, going back and forth between Utah and Arizona. And I think if something happened to me, my children would be very unhappy with me right now, trying to sort through stuff and, figure stuff out. So I do have that on my mind, and just like, how do I make sure I really organize things to make their lives easier if something happened? But
and my father's still alive, and he has a 4-bedroom house full of stuff.
Wow.
And books are one of them. My father probably not so much now, but yeah, he loved his books, and he's got like a complete set of Dickens books.
It's I love that.
Complete set of Dickens. And I'm like, I think I've read 1 or 2 Dickens. It's not a book that I'm anxious to read.
Yeah.
And he's excited. He said, when I die, you can have all of these bookcases and you can have all of these books.
Okay, leave me talk. I will help you with that burden.
And I just say to him, like, I really don't think I need this. And the other thing, I guess, is going on to the parents, but I have inherited things from the mother-in-law. And so I knew that when we got them, they were quite precious to her. But of course, I didn't pay real attention to the stories. And so now she's gone, and her son has gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, whose was this? Why was this special?
Want the stories, because it's the stories behind it that makes those things meaningful. It really is. Yeah. So,
if you're going to keep stuff from previous generations, make sure that you've got the story, and probably even write it on the thing or whatever. Pay attention to the story.
Really good tip. Yeah. Another thing. Oh, go ahead.
Like, I've inherited some lovely antique pieces of furniture. And they're, you'd love it. It's an old-fashioned gramophone that you wind up.
Oh, wow. Oh, I would love that. That's awesome.
With original records from Louis Armstrong and things like that.
Wow. Oh, I can't imagine anyone not loving that. That's awesome.
Oh, it's beautiful. But it's a really big piece of furniture, and it's very heavy. But which grandparent did it come? Like, it's his mother's father, or like it was one of his grandparents.
Right.
Oh,
hard. That's hard.
And because they had the stories about the records and which house it was in and the parties they had with it, and I didn't write enough of that stuff down.
That's a really good tip, and a good way to go through and declutter, because if you can't recollect the story, I mean, you need to be able to articulate why this means something to you, or it probably is good to declutter that.
Well, that's right. So the paintings, the knickknacks, all of that sort of stuff, you really need to have the story. So because I'm saying, well, I'm keeping this for the children.
Yeah.
Well, they don't even remember these people. Like, I remember my mother-in-law really well. The 2 girls that are sort of her grandchildren, They don't remember her.
No, and the way they will feel connected is through the story. And
Through
so
the
if you
story.
can't articulate the story, then you've
Yeah.
already kind of
So,
lost the relevance, value of it,
so,
whatever it is.
so I think your hint of like going through and what makes you happy, what makes you joyful, what makes it your home, because I think as singles, it's important that our home is our home. So however we're single, it should be our haven, our heaven, I guess. It's our place. Yeah. But then, yes, thinking about we're going to pass this on. So if there's special things, and I know with this mother-in-law, she's got lots of little knick-knacky things, right? But she actually put on the bottom of the knickknacks which grandchild she wanted them to go to. So even when we decluttered her house and we had to get rid of a lot of stuff, we could pick these knickknacks up and see the name underneath.
Yeah. And my mom and dad have been doing that too. I think it's good.
Well, it really helps with that process because you go, she has picked this especially for you.
Yeah.
I'll store it for you until you're old enough. But, it's got your name on the bottom because your grandma picked that for you. So.
And what you say about our homes being our homes, I think is like, that is something really, really important to me. Like I protect my space kind of from the same perspective of our temples. Like I want to be able to walk through my door and have it exude a feeling of peace and love and acceptance and be a joyful place. And even in terms of who I invite into my home, and I'm very protective of that because it is my sanctuary. And for a long time, I didn't have a sanctuary. And so for me, I do treat it in that. And in fact, when I moved into this place, my stake president gave my home a beautiful blessing. And I was so touched by how thoughtful and how prayerful he was about the blessing, because it means a lot to me to have a safe and joyful, happy, good energy place. And so I think that does mean we have to declutter and get rid of the things. And when I just recently moved, I moved across the lawn. I'd only lived in a place for 3 years, and then I moved across the lawn. How long ago was that? Maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Yeah. And I was stunned at how much clutter and things that I had accumulated just in those 3 short years. And so I did declutter, but sadly, I do have a storage unit that has my Christmas in it. And I know.
Oh, Christmas is okay if it's only got Christmas in it. But yes,
it gradually starts to build up again. And I'm like, oh, I can put that in the storage. That's not a good philosophy.
That's not good. I actually belong to a mastermind group, and I think it was last year, every one of us had a storage unit.
Yeah.
And so our little mastermind group goal last year was everybody had to get rid of their storage unit.
Oh, that's an awesome goal. The other thing I hear a lot, and we're getting a little bit low on time, but the other thing I hear is, have you ever heard somebody say, like, if you really want to find a partner, kind of energetically or whatever they say, you have to make space for that partner. So when I was moving into this place and I'm looking at my dresser, and I actually happened to notice today, I was looking for a pair of jeans and I was like, where did I put those? And 2 of my drawers are empty. So at the bottom of my dresser, I have 2 actually totally empty drawers. I was very proud of myself, or room in my closet. Like do you have a closet that's filled to the gills? Like nobody could put anything in there, because mine has space in it because I got rid of a lot of stuff when I moved. But there's other places here where I really don't have space for anything. In fact, I had somebody ask me about my food storage the other day. They said, you need to at least get, I think he told me, I don't know, 100 pounds of beans or something. I'm like, I have no place to put 100 pounds of beans. And so, I mean, there is the whole thing about how to prioritize what you declutter. And I definitely don't have the food storage that I probably should have, or even the space to have it.
So yeah, well, that's what I've got on the shelves in my garage. So I've set them up, and I've got plastic tubs, and I've got beans. Definitely are not part of my storage, but rice.
Rice, good.
So
Oatmeal.
yeah, I've got like a bucket, and every now and again I'll just buy like a 5-kilo bag of rice and put in this bucket of rice. And
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, so
I need to do that. Make space.
Yeah, because like these shelves don't need to be full of birthday cards from the kids when they were 1 and 2. You know? So I can empty that plastic bucket out and put food storage in it. Much more relevant and useful.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so I think that, and I think, sorry, you were just talking about one where we're talking decluttering, and one of them will be like in a divorce. I found you ended up decluttering friends. And that might sound sad.
Yeah, relationships.
Anybody who's not anybody who says like, oh, well, you know, they probably won't say it out loud, but you know, anybody who's saying you're wrong, you shouldn't have done that.
Or just always giving you kind of a general feeling of discomfort. Like if they're not I mean, it's okay to have people that tell you you're wrong when you are, or, you know, that you need some correcting. But if they just have
that friend is a good friend to keep.
Exactly. But if they're just not a joyful, optimistic person that helps bring out the best in you and contributes to your life in positive ways, then we need to, some of those are hard to let go, but you're right. It is a really good point about decluttering and how do you address that?
Because the friends will change, and it's sad. It is sad that people come and go in your life, but it's a fact of life. It's rare that you're going to have friends all the way through your life, because we're changing, and they're changing, and you know, friends that were hopefully growing, and if they're not growing in the same way, and you know, you could have friends that you like going to the movies with, but you know, you don't really have deep conversations with. That's fine. But if you're finding someone, just like the things in your house that sort of give you negative feelings, if you've got people coming into your life that are giving you those negative feelings, then let them go and find the friends that do support you in your new life.
Yeah, that's really good. So what do you think about the making space for a partner? Do you hold any credence to that, or do you think that's just silly?
No, I've certainly heard that, and it makes sense, doesn't it? Because if your life is so crowded, how are you going to everything? Time?
Yeah.
How can you date if you've got no time?
Yeah.
How can you add someone else if you think you don't need any more in your life?
Yeah.
So yes, have space for them. I personally, just on a different topic, if you were to get married, I would actually suggest you go to another house. Like, I think that advice of like, it shouldn't be either person's house. You actually should buy your own house together.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lovely little story about President Nelson and Wendy where they went and bought a new house together. And I think that's a very good example. Yeah. But you do need to make sure that there's room in your life. If you're wanting a partner, then, you know, just as you're experiencing, you're going dating, you're adding new people into your life. Because if you sit there and you've got everything all chock-a-block and there's no room, so it's not just the space in your wardrobe, but the room in your life. So yes, and the room in your life for new friends, the room in your life for new experiences, all of those things. So I think that to make that room, so it's more than, you know, the space in the cupboard is just, as you said, it's the energetic thing, but it adds to all of those, you know, there's space for someone to come in. I like that. And I'm the point you brought up before about our home is our temple, and I think that's really important. I actually had that experience recently. I had the sister missionaries come around and they were talking about temples. I can't remember how the conversation went, but we all sat there and went, this home feels like a temple. This has that same experience of peace, and like, yes, did it. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
That's the goal. And you can't have that if you're tripping over stuff and there's stuff you don't like and there's stuff that doesn't fit, and you can't have that. So that's why we're talking about decluttering, everybody, because we want that, our homes, to be our temples. This is a place of peace and beauty. And so have a look around your house, and as Kim's friend said, like, look and see what brings you that feeling. And if it doesn't, but you still think it's important, wrap it up in bubble wrap and put it away. And that's very valuable. It's like you don't have to actually throw it out. You can store it. So that's what I did with the photos of my husband. I just stored them. I didn't throw them out and say, right, he's gone.
Right.
And so now I can bring back the pictures that do have the good memories and the feelings.
Because they do bring you joy now, and
they do bring me joy. Whereas before,
gone over that hump of grieving and loss, and now you can think back to those happy memories.
And I had a very weird grieving because I was just angry that he died. I was angry with him, which is, it's a real grief emotion that doesn't get talked about very much. I mean, he died of cancer. It's not like he chose to die. I don't know how.
It wasn't his choice, for sure.
It wasn't his choice, for sure. But I was still angry with him. And so, I had to sort of put that away for a while. And now I can look at it with love again, rather than the anger. It's like, you should be here.
But
have a look around your house and make sure that everything in your house brings you that feeling of love and peace and joy. And
and I think that's beautiful. I think that's a great way to end. I would just say, as you were talking about that and treating our house as a temple, or thinking of it that way, I think we should do that with our bodies as well. So we should probably have another topic about how we take care of ourselves, and have kind of that same philosophy. I mean, it all is in alignment, I think, with thinking celestial. So
I think that's perfect. Yes. Next topic. Our bodies are perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope that's given you some inspiration for decluttering your life.
Yes.
Bye.
See you next week.